Hello and welcome to GameSec. This video features my personal top 10 games for the entire TurboGrafx-16 and pcengine line of consoles. And I tell you, this list changes often for me because there's just so much to enjoy on the platform, don't you think? Well, I do, but anyway, this video could also serve as maybe 10 games you should play first if you're just getting into the console. And a lot of people have asked me to do videos like this, so I thought I'd try it, see how it goes. If it does okay, then maybe I can do top 10s for other consoles. Maybe convert my entire channel into nothing but top 10s. Nah, just kidding, I wouldn't do that. Anyway, let's get started.
Number 10, Box Revenge.
Of course, one of the Bonk games from Red and Hudson is a prerequisite for this list. I mean, he was the mascot for the console during its heyday, and for good reason. You just need one of the games though, and honestly, any one of them would do fine. But for this list, I picked Bonk's Revenge, the second one in the series. To me, this is basically the peak of the franchise. Subsequent games don't add much that you'd miss, and it improves upon the original, making the entire experience feel a bit beefier. You play as the caveman Bonk, as you may or may not have surmised by this point. Your main weapon is your head. You can press the button to bonk enemies in front of you, but this doesn't have a ton of reach. The preferred method of ending your enemies' much valued lives forever is by jumping, pressing the attack button, and landing on them with your head. You can also attack enemies from underneath by simply jumping if you find yourself in such a predicament. You uncover lots of fruit from these little pod thingies and they'll restore some of your life. Burgers, fries, and other things give you points. Only fruit refills your health. Be careful, because some of these pod things are booby-trapped with evil nightmare monsters. Sometimes you'll get a big or even bigger piece of meat. This pisses Bonk off, and the extra adrenaline that results from your unbridled fury makes you stronger. There are a few levels to your anger, and you'll even be able to breathe fire in this form, which is powerful and it has a pretty good reach. But once you've absolutely lost your mind, you can walk right through enemies and things without taking any damage, and they just die. This only lasts for a short while before you calm down though. This game improves things over the original by having the occasional mid-boss, which helps keep things interesting until you get to the real boss of the stage. And these bosses, they are all quite fun to fight. A few of them might even take you a bit to figure out their patterns. The graphics are bright with some great artwork. They put a lot more detail in here compared to the first game. The sound and music is also a bit more alive this time around, not that it was bad in the first game. To me, this is the one I pull down from the shelf when I want to play a Bonk game, and I definitely recommend it.
Number 9, R-Type.
That's right, it's R-Type from IREM. I love this horizontal shooter with its creepy alien imagery. Definitely on the TurboGrafx-16 anyway. That's right, I like it more than the arcade version. Why? Well, mainly it's the sound and music. The arcade game sounds like ass, but this version is actually pleasant to listen to. No other version of this game can match it in my opinion. Anyway, there are 8 levels of very difficult shooting action here, and you'll die a lot as you learn the enemy patterns and behaviors. A couple of the upper stages are a bit uninventive, but the game remains fun as a whole. You can collect 3 different types of weapons, each completely unique. And you'll appreciate them all, as certain points of the game really benefit from each one. It's not like you're just going to stick to your favorite weapon for the entire journey. You can also detach your little pod thingy, and it mimics your vertical movements, which can come in handy. You can even attach it behind you, which, again, can come in quite handy. When this game came out, there really wasn't much else like it. The only thing that this one is missing is the cool extra stage from the Master System version. Man, I wish someone would hack this game to include that, complete with its awesome music. This game originally came on 2 hue cards in Japan because they didn't have the technology to put 4 megs on one card. But when it eventually came out in the US, it was all on one card because we wouldn't stand for that nonsense here in America. They also released this game on CD in Japan, and it has cutscenes and some funky music. but I prefer the HuCard music by a country mile. Yeah, there's a substantial amount of flicker here, and sometimes it can even be a hindrance, but I still love it all the same. I play this one a lot, and I usually just go until I die, and I always enjoy it. The first R-Type just doesn't get any better in my opinion, unless someone wants to hack it like I said. Please? There actually is a Genesis hack that does that, but it doesn't play exactly the same, and it doesn't have the TurboGrafx music. Alright, 2 down and 8 to go, and just a reminder, this is only my personal top 10, it's not official or anything, though it really should be.
Number 8. Devil's Crush.
This is Devil's Crush from Compile and Nagsat. This is an evil video pinball game that's loads of fun. The goal of the game is to get the high score. Normally I don't care much about score in video games, but there's just something about this one that keeps me playing just to play. And normally I find real pinball extremely uninteresting, but this game was the first time I ever spent more than 2 continuous minutes playing pinball. This game actually makes me appreciate the entire concept of pinball more. The board is absolutely alive with creatures wandering, things blowing up and the like. That's something that real pinball just can't do. To me though, that helps make it interesting. The board here has 3 levels. It's very tough to get to the top part of the board, and it took me a few tries to be able to show it to you today. You won't be seeing the sights up here too often, but I always love trying to work my ball up as high as I can get it. And there I go back down. You can unlock and enter lots of different bonus stages, which is extra cool. You can save your game at any time by pressing pause, then select, and then button 1. If you want to save your high scores, you'll have to begin a new game and then save it real quick. The graphics are fantastic with a large focus on satanic things. That's cool unless you're a parent in the 1990s. If you are, then it's really scary. The music is something that keeps me glued to this game because it's incredible. Seriously, it's one of the best tunes on the TurboGrafx, and that is no small praise. I imagine that true pinball fans might think that this game is a bit casual and maybe a bit gimmicky, but hell, it made me play pinball. Not only that, it made me enjoy it each and every time I play it, which is a lot. While there is a Genesis version that came out a couple of years later, this one feels so much more at home on the TurboGrafx.
Number 7. Soldier Blade.
Oh hell yeah, it's Soldier Blade from Hudson Soft. This is one of the 3 games in the Soldier series on the console, the others being Superstar Soldier as well as Final Soldier, which stayed in Japan. Not only do I feel that this is the most approachable game in the series, it's also the best. You collect 3 different weapons, red, blue, and green, which basically mean missile, lightning, and wave shots. I'll do my best not to use the blue weapon too much as it flickers pretty badly and I don't want anyone getting dizzy or anything. Personally, I prefer the red weapon because it's the least annoying to look at and it's still pretty strong, unlike the green weapon. You ever notice how the green weapon is always the weakest weapon in shooters? Never get the green weapon, unless of course you have to, which happens. Anyway, collect 3 of the same color to power it up. You can store up to 3 weapons in the lower right corner of the screen. If you have any of these at your disposal, you can press the other button to fire it off like a special attack. But all 3 slots need to be filled if you want your weapon to have its full strength. The good news is that power-ups are usually plentiful, so it's often worth the sacrifice if you feel overwhelmed. Also, if you're powered up, you can take hits without dying. You'll power down a notch and you'll have to work your way back up, but it beats losing a life. The enemies are mostly not that special, but man oh man are they fun to kill. Most stages have a mid-boss who tries to make a stand, and then the stage continues to the real boss, which is in charge of things. The stages can sometimes be pretty long, but never too long. It never gets boring and wears out its welcome. In fact, that's one of the reasons I chose this game over the amazing Blazing Lasers. That one is a phenomenal game as well, but it takes too long to get going. You should probably use a level select to enjoy that one. You won't need one here though, as you're having a blast even in the first couple of stages. The graphics, while not mind-blowing, are still pretty good. There are a few attempts at some special effects like this bridge scrolling over the ground. Or how about here, where the ground is slowly opening up, followed by some cool scrolling that's similar to how Musha does it over on the Genesis. Anyone ever heard of the Genesis? I talk about it in some of my videos. Oh, and there are even a few quick line scrolls. The bosses all look pretty cool as well. Sadly, there are a few areas that feature boring space backgrounds. Am I playing on the NES? I can't tell because there's barely any detail on the screen. Still, the game mostly looks really good. The music is excellent. I'm not sure if I'd say it was better than the music from Blazing Lasers, but it gives it a run for its money. It is much more energetic. Overall, this game is some top-tier TurboGrafx.
Number 6. Bloody Wolf.
Bloody Wolf from Data East is an outstanding game for the system. This is an overhead run and gun that's up there with the best of them in my opinion. You can shoot and holy crap, even jump. Or maybe even ride an awkward looking motorcycle for some extra protection. You can upgrade your weapons and life temporarily, and you even have sub-weapons like grenades. Or hell, have some flamethrowers if you prefer. You like that? Here, have some more, burn! This version loses the 2-player simultaneous of the arcade original. That's okay, it's the 2020s, who has friends? At the beginning of the game, you're off to rescue the president. You eventually do that, and then you lead him to the chopper. But then you get kidnapped! Now you need to play the rest of the game as player 2's character and rescue yourself. It features bigger levels than the arcade and even an extra one. You only have one life, but you do have unlimited continues. This makes the game seem easy at first, but trust me, you're gonna need them. And you'll always want to continue, because each time you die, you're gonna want to kill that boss that killed you that much more. This is a game that I didn't get into when it first came out, so there's really no nostalgia here. I rented it and I thought it was fine, but that was it for a couple of decades. It wasn't until I started collecting again later in life that I picked it up on a forum. I started playing it and I was like, you know, this is really good. The graphics are fine for the time, especially considering the memory constraints, but there's a lot of slowdown. The music is excellent and it makes great use of stereo. I'd much rather play this than the likes of Ikari Warriors. I pulled this one down from the shelf a lot and it never seems to get old, even though it definitely is. Alright, halfway done. I wonder what the top 5 will be. Actually, no I don't, since I've already played, captured, written, and edited those segments. This next one, though, is for mature audiences only. I hope this video doesn't get flagged for having such a mature game.
Number 5. Splatterhouse.
Hey, it's Splatterhouse from Namco. I love this game. If you can, play the Japanese pcengine version, as it had a little bit of censoring when it came over to North America, but the gameplay remains identical. If you play the North American version, it looks like this with its purple mask and no inverted cross. The Japanese version has a white mask like Jason from Friday the 13th, the much desired inverted cross, as well as a few other minor things. Anyway, are you ready for the scariest video game in the entire world? Well then look no further than Splatterhouse. It's super creepy. You and your girlfriend go inside of an old house for shelter during a storm, but the game doesn't tell you that. And the ending is every bit as good as well. But really, it's the journey that counts. Your girlfriend is kidnapped, because of course she is. A strange mask gives you strength and you go off to find her. What is that? Ew! Or this, twice the ew. Or honestly, maybe yum. I always thought this guy looked like pizza with stretchy cheese. You punch and jump your way through the game, but you can pick up some temporary weapons to help out, which are always fun to use. There are also other strategies in here to make things a little easier for you. Some stages even offer branching paths. You can even check yourself out in the mirror and that sure was scary! Your hitbox is bigger than your real-life house, so it might take you a bit to adjust. The bosses all have fun patterns to learn, and you'll lose your life right when you think you have them figured out. Then you need to continue to work your way back through the stage for a chance to fight them again. It's always worth it though. The graphics are generally pretty good for such a low-memory game with plenty of ghoulish and frightening things everywhere. I love some of the more organic-looking enemies. You're going to want to make sure you're at least 6 or 7 before you're exposed to these dastardly visuals. The sound and music are fantastic. It ranges from creepy, suspenseful, to just downright good. It's very, very TurboGrafx, or pcengine if you prefer. Splatterhouse sequel showed up on the Genesis and eventually more modern consoles, but this one will always be my favorite in the series. This should be a game in the collection of anyone who owns the console, or on the SD card of anyone who has a flash card, or tucked away in the ROMs folder of any emulator/FPGA enthusiast.
Number 4, Lords of Thunder.
This is Lords of Thunder from Hudson Soft, also known as Winds of Thunder in Japan. This CD game is one of the more impressive and fun horizontal shooters of that entire generation. Yeah, it also came out on the Sega CD a couple of years later, but this is definitely the better version. One thing I really like about this one is that it's not entirely a conventional shooter. By that I mean you don't just press start, go pew pew pew, and then go on to the next stage like so many other games. You can choose the order in which you play the stages, but it also adds a money system that's not too far removed from the likes of Forgotten Worlds. Each and every enemy you kill drops a crystal. Blue ones are worth 5 and red ones are worth 25. You'll be collecting a lot of these. In the shop between stages, you can buy more life, more armor power, shields, elixirs, and the like. You also have your choice of different armors like fire armor, wind armor, earth armor, and water armor. You're probably supposed to use the water armor in the fire levels and the fire armor in the snow level and stuff, but I don't do that. I just use the fire armor for everything, screw it. These armors can be powered up by collecting orbs, and each armor has 3 levels of power which affect the strength of your weapons. When you take a hit, you'll not only lose a bit of life, but also some armor power. Get hit a couple of times and your armor power will drop, reducing your weapon by 1 level. This game has something a lot of other shooters struggle with: variety. Games like Gate of Thunder on the console are also phenomenal, but damn near half the game takes place in boring factory levels, like one right after the other, what the hell. Here, each stage has a unique personality, offering up lots of variety even in a single level. Plus, you have the different armors with their own weapons. The graphics in this game are on another level for the console. There's tons of bright and colorful stuff everywhere, not to mention all of the parallax scrolling. The console was never meant to do any of this. It was designed to compete with the 8-bit Nintendo. As such, it is truly a sight to behold. The music is also outstanding, unless you hate electric guitars for some reason. If you do, you're probably 90 years old at least. This shooter is the full package, though there are tons of other great shooters on the console as well. Longtime viewers will know that I'm a sucker for the legendary axe from Victor. This was a very early game for the system, and honestly, it should have been bundled with the console instead of Keith Courage and Alpha Zones. I really do think it would have made the TurboGrafx a lot more appealing to most people in the beginning. You play as an axe-wielding barbarian off to rescue his women from the clutches of the evil beings. If the story didn't sell you already, then, well, maybe the gameplay will. Basically, you open stone idols and collect power-ups. Some of these power-ups will extend your power bar, which is the strength of your attack. Swing your weapon and the bar goes down and slowly refills, resulting in weaker attacks until it's full. Other power-ups will let you swing faster and also make your power gauge fill more quickly. You can extend the bar 4 times, and you don't max it out until you're a little over halfway through the game. And when it hits, your enemies die of an epileptic seizure, and hell, maybe you do too. You have a hefty life bar, and if you die, your power abilities go down a notch. But they always put some power-ups close by so you can regain your former glory in a moment or two. While the control here isn't super fluid, it is extremely good. The game just feels right. I mean, you can absolutely feel where you're gonna land before you press jump, and that helps you traverse the stages with confidence. It's all very responsive. The game is quite challenging, and it took me forever to beat it. That's because there's an insane maze at the end that will drive you nuts, and I might recommend a guide to help you out if you're not in the mood to write things down yourself. Even with that, I love to pull this one down and play it often, just to see how far I can get on a single life. I don't always have to beat it to enjoy myself. You know what I mean. The graphics here are generally excellent, especially considering it's a 2 megabit game. The music is great too, and not many games have similar tunes. The sequel is also fantastic, even though it's an entirely different game. But for this list, I have to go with the original.
Number 2. Each Book 1 and 2.
Oh man, I certainly can't leave out East Book 1 and 2 from Falcom, Hudson Soft, and Alpha System. Like R-Type, I just mentioned the Master System version of this the last episode, but this version really cranks up the quality. They were really pushing the brand new CD-ROM format big time with this one, with tons of incredible music and cutscenes. Not only that, but you also get East 2 after you beat the first game, and it's probably 3 to 4 times as long. A lot of people don't like the bump mechanics when fighting enemies. They think it's too simplistic and can't get used to it. To me, that's kind of like saying that pushing a button in an action game is too simplistic, because nothing beats having lots of menus to choose your attack and maybe a grid to move around on. My point is that you can get used to it if you give it more than a few minutes. And once you get over yourself, you'll find that you're having an incredible time with a decently long action RPG once you combine both games. Once you get to East 2, you can press a button to use a magic attack if you'd like, which adds an additional element. Or you can transform into a monster and move incognito and even converse with the enemy. You also need to level yourself up with experience, earn money to buy new weapons, armor, and shields, obtain and use special items, and all that good stuff. The graphics might not be the best on the console, but they're plenty fine in most cases. They do try to get a little fancier here and there in East 2. The 3 introductions and the ending cutscenes all look great though. Tickle tickle. The music was something to behold, and it still holds up today. Originally composed by a talented staff that includes Yuzo Koshiro, the arrangements here by Ryo Yonemitsu sound crystal clear and energetic. Even the voice cast is outstanding given the time. It's the only truly professional voiceover work that NEC commissioned. You've got lots of recognizable voice actors and regular actors here, like Bumblebee.
Adol, where have you been? It's me, Luda Gemma. I've brought you the Shield of Claria.
Skeletor, among many others.
Let's see how far this Adol character can go before we crush him.
Jimmy Neutron.
Oh, Adol. I don't know what to say.
Duke Prowl and a bunch of other Transformers and G.I. Joes.
I know you are searching for the secrets contained within the books.
Thomas Hayden Church of all people.
You're going to Darm Tower to find the book, aren't you?
And even friggin' Winnie the Pooh. Yes, this is Winnie the Pooh.
Before I shatter their souls and drain the last of their life's blood.
This all adds to the total package in a big way. This CD is outstanding. Ooh, one more to go. How convenient of me to put a break right before number 1 just to pop on and add absolutely nothing of value to the episode. Though I will say that when I first got this game about 3 months after it came out, I was absolutely blown away. It's amazing.
Number 1, Dracula X, Rondo of Blood.
There is no way that Dracula X from Konami wouldn't make this list. It's usually referred to as Rondo of Blood to differentiate it from the inferior Super NES version. This CD game is one of the best Castlevania games ever. You play as Richter Belmont and you're on a quest to defeat Dracula once and for all. Or, you know, at least put him down for a few years or so. They really went balls out for this one, designing tons of new enemies and bosses that would be featured in Castlevania games for decades to come. This is where we first got giant screaming plants. And even screaming swords. This game features multiple routes in many of the stages, and you definitely want to make sure to check out everything. There are plenty of other secrets in most stages as well that can net you some cool bonuses. The style and vibe of this game is unmatched. This game is not kidding around. This absolutely could not be done on a standard cartridge at the time for any console. There's just so much here. Thanks to the save feature that's available after you lose your last life, it's easy to pick up where you left off. You even get to find a new playable character, and you even get some cool cutscenes. Do you like cussing? Do you also like getting sucked? Well, how about if this boss is...
Sucking you while you cussing?
Yeah, it's all here, man. The control is perfect, and while you will definitely die, you always feel like you can do better and want to try again. I love that there are no bottomless pits in this game. That's how good the design is. The stage keeps going, just on a different route. The graphics are phenomenal for the console. It shows that this old console could keep up with and in some areas maybe even surpass the newer 16-bit consoles of the time. You have parallax scrolling galore, amazing detail, and superb color. The sound and music are also incredible, with familiar tunes featuring some excellent new arrangements as well as lots of great new tunes. And of course, once again, the sound effects and voices are awesome. Sadly, this game was only released in Japan during its time, but it has been translated by Konami and it's been released on more modern consoles. If you're crafty, you can even get Konami's translated version to play on your TurboGrafx or PC Engine.
I am Richter Belmont, Vampire Hunter.
This is not only one of the best games for the console, but one of the best games, period. And there you go, my top 10 games for the TurboGrafx-16. If you disagreed with any of that, you are wrong. But let me know what your top 10 games for the console are if you have such a list. And did you like this episode? If so, what console should I do next for a top 10? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. Monday, they just sent me the brand new TurboGrafx-16 Entertainment Super System to review for my local paper. This baby is super sleek and stylish. Definitely not a kid's toy. Tuesday, wow, Blazing Lasers is supercharged with amazing graphics. 10 times more colors than I've ever seen in a video game before. Wednesday, the stereo sound in Dungeon Explorer is mind-boggling. Anyone who has this one will be the coolest kid in school. Thursday, finally plugged in China Warrior. I'm too used to the other kiddie game systems. These giant characters are pulverizing me. Friday, they're coming to pick up the TurboGrafx-16 today. They're in for a sweet surprise. TurboGrafx-16, available wherever fine drugs are sold.